Summer 1940. Adolf Hitler stands at the height of his glory. After the stunning victories in France, he is celebrated across Germany as a military genius, an infallible leader who works day and night for his people. The myth spreads that the light in his office never goes out, that the Fuhrer tirelessly studies every report, every detail. But this image is pure fabrication. The reality could not be more different. Hitler was not a hard-working statesman. He was a dilettante. He could barely tolerate long hours of concentrated effort. He struggled to read files longer than 20 pages. He preferred retreating to his mountain refuge, where he lived like an artist floating above reality. The true work of running the Nazi state fell to others, men like Joseph Goebbels, Heinrich Himmler, and Albert Speer. Over 15 years, Hitler gathered them around him. He was not a genius administrator, but he knew how to surround himself with men who could execute his vision. And through them, his regime carried out crimes on an unprecedented scale. At the very core of Hitler's entourage stood three men, the only ones with direct access to him. The first was Hermann Göring, a glutton for power, wealth, and luxury. An opportunist, a drug addict, he lived surrounded by extravagance, always scheming to enrich himself. The second was Joseph Goebbels, a failed novelist with a clubfoot that left him physically and emotionally scarred. His disability fed his bitterness, and he poured it into radical hatred. He lived only through his idol, Hitler, and wielded propaganda as his weapon. The third was Heinrich Himmler, outwardly ordinary, a small-minded, meticulous bureaucrat. Yet he became the architect of genocide. Under his leadership, the SS organized what the Nazis called the final solution, the systematic extermination of Europe's Jews. Together, these three formed Hitler's inner guard, his most loyal servants, each embodying a different face of the regime: greed, propaganda, and terror. Beyond the first circle was a younger generation, drawn in as Hitler rose to power in the 1930s. Among them, one man stood out: Albert Speer. Speer projected the image of a refined architect, cultured and polite. In truth, he was a manipulator, eager to exploit Hitler's megalomania. He designed vast plans for monumental buildings and dreamed with the Führer of a Berlin transformed into a world capital. For Speer, loyalty was a path to influence, and he would do anything to remain Hitler's favorite. At the lowest level of this hierarchy were the executors, the men who transformed ideology into mass murder. Point one was Rudolf Haas, commandant of Auschwitz. A seemingly ordinary father of five, living in a comfortable house on the edge of the camp, he coldly organized the killing of 1.1 million people. Another was Dr. Joseph Mengele, remembered as the Angel of Death. He carried out grotesque experiments on prisoners, including children, with absolute indifference. To him, victims were simply material for his twisted science. Without men like Haas and Mengele, the regime's crimes would never have been possible. They embodied the machinery of death that Hitler unleashed. What bound Hitler's entourage together was not friendship, but rivalry. They despised one another. Göring, Goebbels, Himmler, Speer all competed for Hitler's favor. and Hitler encouraged it. By fostering jealousy and division, he ensured no one grew too powerful. This was the hidden engine of his court: competition, backstabbing, and fear. To understand how these men came together, we must return to the early 1920s. Germany was broken by defeat in World War I. Its army reduced to just 100,000 men, its people humiliated, its streets roiled by violence. Former soldiers formed paramilitary bands, the Freikorps, battling communists and terrorizing the public. Amid this chaos, a small group in Munich adopted a crooked cross as its symbol. The National Socialist German Workers' Party, the NSDAP, was born at first. Hitler was not its leader. He was merely member number 55, a failed artist and former corporal. But he was driven by a burning desire for revenge. In Munich beer halls, he discovered his gift for oratory. He railed against the victors of the war and the politicians of Weimar, stoking nationalist anger. In the fall of 1922, a decorated war hero walked into one of Hitler's rallies. Hermann Göring, only 27, had been a celebrated fighter ace in the Great War. He had shot down 21 enemy planes and earned Germany's highest military honor, the Pour le Mérite. His face had appeared on postcards across the country. For Hitler, Göring was a godsend, a famous name, a war hero, and, through his marriage to Swedish aristocrat Karin von Foch, access to money and high society. Almost immediately, Göring was placed in charge of the SA, the party's paramilitary wing. With Göring, Hitler gained not just a comrade, but prestige and connections his movement desperately needed. But in November 1923, the Nazis overreached. They attempted to seize power in Munich, the infamous beer hall putsch. Police opened fire. 16 Nazis were killed. Hitler was arrested and sentenced to prison, where he began writing Mein Kampf. Göring, badly wounded in the thigh, fled into exile. In Sweden, he underwent repeated operations, and to dull the pain, he turned to morphine. Addiction consumed him. His violent outbursts led his wife to commit him to psychiatric clinics around Stockholm. Medical records described him as suicidal and self-absorbed. That it seemed the war hero was finished. Yet Göring would not remain in exile forever. In 1925, an amnesty allowed him to return to Germany. Though Hitler had found new allies to lead the SA, Göring reminded him of his past loyalty, of the blood he had shed. "I have lost everything," Göring pleaded, "but I have always been your most faithful companion. Now it is your turn to show me appreciation." Slowly, he regained his place in the movement. Once again, he became part of Hitler's inner circle, proof that in the Third Reich, loyalty and ambition could resurrect even the most broken man. In the end, Hitler's power was not the work of a lone genius, but of a circle of men who carried his will into the world. They schemed, competed, and destroyed one another. Yet all remained bound by their devotion to the Führer, from the luxury of Göring's palaces to the gas chambers of Auschwitz, from the propaganda of Goebbels to the blueprints of Speer. The Nazi Empire was built on their combined ambitions, and at its center sat Hitler himself. not the tireless genius of myth, but a man who relied on others to turn his dark dreams into reality.